The Vikings master plan has been revealed for their week 4 matchup versus the Pittsburgh Steelers as we look at the numbers that do not lie. But first, Kevin O'Connell speaks on Jordan Addison's return and his role on this offense now that his season can finally start. We're going to break it down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest. But first, if you're not a part of the nearly 20% of viewers that we already have subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all things Vikings, we're so close to our goal of 2,000 subscribers. So if you want to help us reach that, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the episodes when they drop. And with that, let's hop straight into the first topic of the day, which is K.O.C's plan. So Kevin O'Connell took the podium yesterday, and of course, the first question that was brought up after he gave initial injury report was Jordan Addison. When speaking on Addison's return, he says it'll be a big week of practice for him, expecting him to have fresh legs. And when Jordan Addison has fresh legs, that's normally a very good thing. So this is going to be something that we're all excited about. Wes Phillips was talking how excited he is about it. Kevin O'Connell was talking about it. Jordan Addison also spoke to the media and seemed very excited, seemed very in good spirits, and just looking forward to getting back on the field, getting back with his guys, and also having a beefed up wide receiver core that is going to be ready to show up and show out with Jalen Nailor, Adam Thielen, Jordan Addison, and of course Justin Jefferson, who are going to be ready to put on a clinic on Sunday morning, which we're going to get into later on in this video as to how they're going to do that. But overall, this is huge for the Minnesota Vikings, of course, because we're getting our wide receiver 2 back after we've definitely been needing him for these first 3 games. Not necessarily the last game, but I digress on that one. Speaking on his role, though, however, O'Connell was saying that his role is a role that he's really made for himself over his time here, knowing how versatile and all the things we do with Justin. Jordan's kind of the same way. He can be at any position in our formation, and we saw that last year where the Vikings deployed him in a number of different ways, where they send him in motion, they send him in on a run block, or they send him in on a deep post, where Justin Jefferson's usually in that position, where they catch defenses off guard by having him kind of play against type in certain scenarios. And same with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is a guy who can play out wide at that deep spot, but he can also play inside the slot and get in on those in routes or get some good rack yards if he catches someone shallow over the middle and just turns upfield. Jordan Addison is kind of the same way, just a little bit smaller and maybe not as elite, but these are 2 wide receivers who are very similar in certain skill sets, and O'Connell was speaking on that as well, saying that he's very unique from a standpoint of his route running, his ability to use the tools of our offense, where he talked about motions, I formations, and things like that. And then he's got such a unique separation ability throughout the different levels of the routes, and we saw that on full display last season when Jordan Addison caught that touchdown pass against the Green Bay Packers in the end zone. That was a beautiful catch and a beautiful placement that he was just right on the money. Jordan Addison knows how to bring those down. It's not as flashy as when Justin Jefferson does it, but he kind of brings it down in the same way that Chris Carter used to, where it's just possession, make sure you maintain it, and just hold on to that thing and don't let it touch the ground, because that is going to be a big play. And Jordan Addison has that big play capability while also being a possession type receiver. So it's almost like he's a hybrid of Chris Carter and Randy Moss in one, just maybe not the level of elite talent, but still the absolute skill set that just continues to get better and better every season. So maybe I'm just shut up by the end of his career on that note with the comparison to Moss and Carter. But overall, I think he is going to be a very great Minnesota Viking when it's all said and done. And this offense definitely needs him back in it, because with the way the passing game has been going, it was really solid last game, but they didn't need to have to do too much. The first 2 games, it was a little bit lackluster. So having Jordan Addison back is going to be a big boost of confidence for this offense. And of course, Carson Wentz, who Kevin O'Connell was also asked about when talking about Carson Wentz and the offense on this game heading into it, saying that I'm looking for a group to offensively stack as many plays as we can together with all 11 guys doing their job. And Carson, obviously playing quarterback, is a big time part of that, and the details of him doing his job and how that can impact others. So this is something where Minnesota was playing very much ahead of the sticks last Sunday against the Bengals, where they didn't have to do too much anything crazy on offense, where they didn't have to shoulder too much of the burden on them to get things done. The defense kind of really just took care of business, and we just had to be game managers on offense. But this is a game where we might have to spread the ball around a little bit. It might have to lean on the run game and our offense in general, and as well as Carson Wentz. So as long as everyone's out there doing their job, it's just doing the little things that matter. And like what Kevin O'Connell was saying, how they're just trying to stack as many plays as they can. So if they're staying ahead of the sticks, and they're staying ahead of schedule with what they have scripted on their play sheet, they won't turn into the Chicago Bears, where they run out of their first 15 plays in the first 2 drives, then they're up shit's creek without a paddle trying to figure out how to do anything on offense and move the ball. Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to do that. He's probably going to have 30 plays already scripted right away, hoping to spread around throughout the first two quarters, or maybe at least the first quarter. So if he's in a situation where they're staying ahead of the sticks, staying ahead of schedule with their plays, that can really open up this offense to kind of get a little bit crazy, where he sees a scenario, maybe wants to go away from the scripted play, try something a little bit flashy if they're feeling it, and that might lead to a big play and a score. Who knows? But it also went to Carson Wentz on that matter as well, with the confidence of being able to do so. He says, I'm confident, but at the same time, I'm not trying to do too much. I'm trying to play within the system, understand the why we're calling plays, get through the progressions quickly, and just trying to do my job and help stay on the field and move the ball. Not saying he didn't have any confidence in the defense. He said that they have a ton of confidence in the defense, but of course, you need your offense out on the field to obviously score points. Defense did that all on their own last week, especially Isaiah Rodgers having a crazy fantasy day just on his own as a wide receiver playing corner. But then you have Carson Wentz saying, hey, I'm not going to be anything more than a game manager here. And maybe that's a red flag for fans to hear, as far as if you're an opposing team saying, okay, we can just feast on this and force him to have to be that difference maker. But Carson Wentz, he's tried playing hero ball before. It worked in Philly during that MVP type season before his ACL injury, and he tried doing it in the opposite way in Indy, where he was just throwing a lot of picks, almost like Jameis Winston type football, where he was going 30 for 30, where he was a guy that kept both teams in the game for the entire 60 minutes, for better or for worse. So this is something where he's trying to flip the script on that, not try and be a hero, not try and do too much. He also probably saw what Kirk Cousins was doing in his first year in Minnesota, where he tried to do exactly that. Saw this team as, okay, we got to win now. I got to be the hero. I got to force all these plays to happen. Wasn't really that advantageous, and it led to a lot of turnovers and a very miserable fan base and a very miserable season as a result, just trying to fighting for false hope at a playoff spot that ultimately never came. That's what Carson Wentz is hoping to avoid this season, and just trying to do his job the best that he can without having to do too much, but still having the confidence to execute it. But what did you guys think about all this in the press conferences? What do you guys think Minnesota's attack plan is going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let us know in the comments down below. But that's going to take us into the second topic of the day, which is exposing the Steelers. And here is where we get to the master plan part of things, because when you look at this breakdown here, I kind of pulled from Fox Sports and some other networks to kind of bring together their total defenses, because this is really where you kind of find the outliers in this matchup. When you look on offense as well, Minnesota and Pittsburgh haven't really called a ton of plays on offense, but you see there where it's more of a pass team for both of them. Minnesota said that they kind of want to lean on Jordan Mason a little bit more. And when you look at this game, if you look at the rushing defense, the Steelers are terrible against the run, averaging 139.3 yards allowed and 4 rushing touchdowns. Jordan Mason, that sounds like something where he could have a field day with that. And then you combine that with the passing defense, where the Steelers are giving up 246.7 passing yards a game. Carson Wentz, if they are able to establish the run and Carson Wentz is able to just kind of have freedom to just go, hey, play action here, check down here, deep shot there, the Steelers are going to be in a blender and not know what to hit them, because they're not going to know whether it's going to be pass, run, play action, or deep shot, or a check down, or anything like that, because they're not going to be one-dimensional. If Minnesota can, establishing that run is just so huge. If Minnesota can establish that run, it is going to be a nightmare for the Steelers, because if the run is taken away, obviously they're going to be leaning on pass first instead of run first. That's where it's going to get very easy, for Pittsburgh to predict them. But if they can get that going, especially when you look at the yards that the Steelers have been giving up, at the points that the Steelers have been giving up, if you give up 25 points in a game, you're probably not going to win very many of them. Minnesota has been trying to change around that dynamic of not having as many plays called on offense this season. They didn't have the biggest first two games as far as offensive play calls. Last game, it was an absolute clinic. They were just rolling, and it was just an absolute beauty to watch and a nightmare for Cincinnati Bengals fans to watch. This week is going to be different. It's going to be much more of a test, especially on a neutral site territory in Dublin, Ireland, and for the next week in against the Cleveland Browns in London, England, where that is going to be a very tough neutral site game against a really good defense. The Steelers, they may look like a good defense on paper, but when you look at the numbers, they have been getting exposed by teams, and not by great teams either. They got exposed by the Seattle Seahawks. They got exposed by the New York Jets, and they got exposed a bit throughout this entire season. They are a team that is kind of spiraling a little bit, and then and the New England Patriots was the other team I was trying to think of. But when you think of the teams that they played against, those three teams, they're not on the level of the Minnesota Vikings. They're much weaker teams on defense. They're much weaker teams on offense. And Minnesota has that capability to just absolutely smash them in the mouth. And it'll be tough with Jalen Ramsey on the other side of the ball, but at least it's going to be a veteran in Carson Wentz going up against him and not a rookie in J.J. McCarthy, which I know that might suck to hear, but in this scenario, we do need that veteran quarterback for this. And I know it's because J.J. McCarthy is hurt, and if he wasn't hurt, he was probably going to be playing in this game otherwise. But besides that point, I think with having Carson Wentz in there going against a veteran defense, going against a guy like TJ Watt, going against a guy like Jalen Ramsey, having Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball, but thankfully we'll have Harry the Hitman there, who has been his arch rival for so long, to kind of bolster things down and make sure Rodgers doesn't go a little bit crazy on us. That is going to be something where Minnesota has a really big opportunity here to expose the hell out of this Pittsburgh defense and just put an absolute clinic on and limit their offense that hasn't been the craziest this entire season. I know their offense hasn't been much better than Minnesota's, and it has been better than Minnesota's, yes, but at least Minnesota has the defense to kind of keep them in check, where that offense just has to play a little bit better than they have been in order to get the W. Let us know what you guys have to say about all this down in the comments below. What is your biggest thing to watch heading into this matchup? Is it Jordan Addison? Is it Carson Wentz? Is it the defense? Is it Jordan Mason? Let us know what you guys think down in the comments, but that's going to do it for this episode of Vikings Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.